We've done some initial work on flattening out this glue up, and now we're ready to run it through the planer. You wouldn't think it would do it, but if I just start this piece in with a little bit of pressure, the curve will feed itself on through. I've left off the dust collector on the end because when you run a curved piece through there, the hose tends to get hooked up on it. It's just one more thing to dodge. We're just going to make a little mess we have to clean up. So Ken, if you'll just kind of catch that on this end. I may be set higher than I need to be. I'm going to try and make the first pass through, and then we can just ease our way down about 1/16 of an inch or maybe a 32nd at a time. Those two passes have cleaned most of the profile up, and you can even start to see the grain pattern in the wood. Now I want to see, but I think I can take about a 32nd off the back, so I'm going to go about a half a crank and run it one time on the back just to flatten the back out a little bit more. Okay. Now we're ready to get a consistent width. I'd like to sand it to within about a 32nd of an inch of the same width all the way around, and that's not really that hard to do. I'll use an edge sander to do it, but you can do the same thing with a belt sander. If you clamp this piece to a surface, you can go around the outside edge with a belt sander, and it doesn't take that much to get within about a 32nd of a consistent radius. And again, what we're looking for is about 4 inches. I'm going to use a compass now to mark a consistent radius off this inside edge. The inside edge is almost always true because it's been clamped against my piece of form metal. Now, if I didn't have an edge sander, I'd just clamp this to the table and use a belt sander to go around the outside edge. Fortunately, I've got an edge sander. The only thing you really need to know about sanding the outside edge with an edge sander is you just got to keep it moving. You don't want to stop in one spot and get bogged down. So we just got to keep it moving around the outside. Sometimes they'll even kind of rock back and forth. Now we've got a fairly true outside edge. It should allow us to run our curved blank through the wooden guides on the Woodmaster. All the work that we've done so far has been to create a curved blank that we want to turn to a piece of curved trim. We're actually going to put this profile on this curved blank. This is the really exciting part. We're going to use a steel knife like this and this machine. This is the machine that makes it all happen. In the past 15 years, I've made hundreds, probably thousands of pieces of curved trim, and I've done just about every one of them on an 18-inch Woodmaster Planer like this. It's a very durable, very strong machine that's easy to work with. I mean, if a guy from Arkansas can figure out how to use it, I know anybody else can. What we're going to do is put a really simple guide system into the machine. It's 2 pieces of plywood cut on radiuses. One on the inside radius of the curved trim and one on the outside. They're actually a little bit off of it. This piece of trim is about a 1/2 inch less radius than the inside of the curved blank, and this one's a 1/2 inch more. In a minute I'm going to show you a really simple way to make these curved guides. By the way, it's extremely important that the guide be thinner than the finished piece of trim, so that after the molding has been profiled and it's exiting the machine, the feed rollers are still down on the piece of trim controlling it. When I get my guide set up in the machine, I'll literally be able to feed the blank in one side and stand back and watch a finished piece of curved trim come out the other end. One of the things I really like about the Woodmaster Molder is it has variable speed, so I can really slow down, take my time, and get great results. And if for some reason I didn't get deep enough on the first pass, all it takes is a crank and I can adjust the level of cut. Each full crank equals about 1/16 of cutting depth. Also, I can run my curved blank through using the variable speed motor without the cutter head going the first time to make sure it's going to track all right, which is really reassuring. I'd much rather be feeding that piece in that I've spent maybe an hour and a half making, knowing that it's going to come out the other end fine, than putting it in and wondering if I've got everything set up just right. So let's take a look at what we need to do to get set up to run a curved piece of trim through this machine. I'm getting ready to make the guides that will allow us to run this curved blank through the Woodmaster. I've got a piece of about 3/8 inch thick plywood, and I'm making a mark 4 inches down from each end. I'm going to align those marks with the outside radius of the piece of trim, the blank we've made. And then use a clamp to hold the piece of plywood to my blank. I don't want to put any kind of a nail or a screw hole in this, because it will it'd show up when we made our curved piece of trim. What I want to do is use this router that has a flush trim bit with a bearing over it, and as long as this bearing is riding on the outside edge of the trim, I'm going to get an exact copy of this radius, only a 1/2 inch bigger radius on the outside, because I've lost a 1/2 inch of sawdust. And I'll have to go part way around, then stop and move this clamp. There we have it, an inside and an outside guide that'll take this curved blank and guide it through the machine. We're going to attach those two to a piece of medium density fiberboard, and then clamp that piece of medium density fiberboard into the Woodmaster.